please, for those of the statement.
Just a couple more things, and I'll be quick. And the truth is really, I think, the critical thing here. You know, the process, okay, you know, people's feelings got hurt, you know, you know, it's sometimes unavoidable in a downsizing, let's face it. And I've been through plenty of that. We retired HR, and I've done lots of this stuff, and it's ugly. There's no getting around that. And people have people have relationships with the people that are leaving, you know, the homeowners have relationships with the guards. It's tough. But the truth is not represented in this report that came out. There's nothing true about it. Even Paladin's expense, there's a contract. It's the hours and it's the money. And that's $849,012 a year. That's all. You can't find that number anywhere on this full report. That number doesn't exist. I wish that gentleman was here who was worried about the parking. That number doesn't exist on this report. So for me, I will have zero confidence in an analysis done by this association staff that doesn't include actual hours that we were spending in-house, payroll hours, benefits, workers' comp, all of the expenses associated with the people assigned to security. And if that, and I have no confidence that there's anything like that in this. This says it's $300,000. It may be a lot more. It may be.
Well, I can tell you, and certainly the folks that are accounting people can understand, when we first sat down with the numbers, and there's been this idea that I negotiated this contract. That's not true. We solicited a bid, we got a bid, the bid was presented to the board, that was it. There was no, I was off on my own. Brian Payne and I, because he's in law enforcement, came up with some of the training. What do we want to see for minimum training standards, right? And PC 832 was something we felt was significantly elevated above the state minimums, but wasn't unrealistic, right? We asked for a full police academy if we can get somebody that's a free service, but we'll take PC 832, which is your basic arrest, search, and all that stuff. When we came back to the board and we engaged in this process of we're going to go through it, we came up with these numbers. Dean pointed out an email I sent back in July, I think it was, and I said, I want to make sure we're doing apples to apples. And I said, feel free to use that, because that's exactly what I said to our general manager. I want this to be apples to apples. I don't want there to be big gaps. We got to be fair to everybody. And we came up with some numbers. And I said, well, it looks like the numbers are this. And I was told, I think to the Finance Committee's point, well, there's stuff in security besides just security. And I said, I don't understand, what do you mean? And they said, well, the maintenance for the gates in each village is in the security budget.
Right.
Well, okay. Well, it's kind of, I said, okay, all right.
It's on a separate line item.
Well, or it should be a maintenance line item, but it should be in security. And then you find out that workers' comp insurance, instead of just being in the insurance line item, is broken out kind of by department. So there's insurance here, but then there's a little insurance in security, there's a little insurance in maintenance. And I'm not on the Finance Committee, and I don't have all, but it was very convoluted. It was very difficult from an accounting perspective to say, then what are our actual security costs? And I'll just say this, because I'm not an accountant, and I don't pretend to be one. When you take what Neil just said and Dean just said, you take the total number of hours that the association is telling us we had in security, and you multiply that by what we say our total cost of employment, because that 3109 was identified to us as the total cost of employment. PTO, workers' comp, everything aggregated together and averaged, the total cost of employment. I don't think you need to be an accountant to say that number times that number equals 1.2 million. But if you look at your analysis, it's reflected as 1 million. Now, the question was, Dean said it within an hour of that email going out, where's the $200,000? It's not accounted for anywhere in here. We still don't have that answer.
Well, I think that's why people are questioning, right? Is because nothing is matching up.
Correct.
It makes it, it looks bad. But one thing I would say is that gentleman was saying that you were making accusations about someone doing something wrong. That's not what I heard, in that the money's just disappearing and they're collecting it and not accounting for it. I think that it's actually in there. It's just, and when I say basic accounting, I'm saying that if someone is working in that position, you would expect them to have an accounting knowledge. I'm not saying that all of the homeowners.
Of course.
Look, that
But it's
same
just like
person,
the report,
that same
that
person,
looking of it is not proper in a way to actually make the financial statements beneficial to anybody.
That's probably the most succinct way I've heard it put yet, is they're not a benefit because, and I'll say this, and this is, hopefully I'll stop opining, it's your folks' meeting, but Dean very quickly put up the email we got last Friday from John. You guys remember that one? And said, this is the best we can do at 5:30 on Friday. And my immediate response was, if you already did the analysis, you should have it already. It should all be there already. Why are you trying to put things together at 5:30 on Friday? And that becomes the problem. And I'm not here to vilify John or the staff or anybody. What I'm here to say is, this was sent out to you, and Dean wanted to have a meeting, and I supported them in that because we don't believe it's accurate, but worse than it not being accurate, we didn't approve it, which means management, your general manager should act as an extension of the board to execute the expressed will of the board. Is that a fair assessment?
That's what I do.
If management does it on their own, if they go rogue in sending something out, it creates a disconnect. I think to your point, it creates a disconnect between what's happening and what the board wants to happen. And we need to try to solve it.
Because I wasn't following a lot of the stuff. There was a 5-0 vote, and there was this thing that went out. Did this go out after the 5-0 vote or before?
The 5-0 vote was to approve hiring a vendor for security. That was 5-0 to do that. The finance, my understanding is the way it was presented to me from management, is the finance committee, in trying to put together a good 2016 budget, asked for an analysis of the overall savings of the security program to see how that would affect the 2016 budget.
This was after the fact?
Yes.
And it didn't match up with preliminary information?
No. And again, I don't believe that anybody, I think Dean threw out around $300,000 number. We never gave it to the penny because when we're sitting around the table and John says gate maintenance is part of security, you're like, how do we back that out?
Or the security manager is not part of security, so you start to have no ability to get to the bottom of the numbers. I know you wanted to say something further.
Just really quickly, I know that wasn't an accusation about that whole Parkway thing, I get that. But what I'm saying is an accusation. There is nothing honest about this analysis. There is nothing honest about it. If the contract cost for Paladin isn't on that line where it says Paladin, just that one number is not even there. I can't even find it.
I have a question.
There's nothing honest about this.
Audited this.
And if the accountant can't do that, maybe you guys should consider outsourcing.
Why not a third party audit?
How much are we paying the accountants to prepare these reports? And what kind of training and education experience do they have?
Well,
We have an internal accounting department.
let me say this, and again, I don't,
As a homeowner.
as a homeowner, if you remember our controller, our previous controller, left Serrano to go to work for the Parkway. He's now the general manager of the Parkway. From a control perspective, and I'm not suggesting the controller we have now is anything but competent. I'm not making that statement. I'm not saying she's not. Okay, I need to be very clear. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is the process by which we hired the new controller. Maybe you could enlighten us with your experience. The job was posted, candidates were solicited, and a person was hired with no board input whatsoever. We didn't even know the job had been posted. Getz found it on monster.com by accident. That the second highest paid position in the Serrano HOA was vacant and being solicited for candidates. We didn't get resumes, we didn't get a recommendation, we didn't make a final hiring approval, we didn't set a salary range, we didn't review alternate candidates. It was just done. Now, I believe, having come to more meetings than Jim, that the previous board of directors was on cruise control for a long time. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying it was. Management just ran things. Getz comes along and he's a fly in the ointment. So you start to see all the little needlings about, well, Dean costs us money on this and costs us money on that. And then I come along and I'm part of the unwholesome alliance, and you see how that plays. It's the same lyrics to different music. But now we get into this now, and we want to have a conversation with the owners. I won't bore you with it, but I brought up an issue during the campaign about this Village Green Park, that we used our HOA money to pay the developer's nut on this park. And in the whole campaign, all I was wanting for somebody to do was show me that I'm wrong. Just show me I'm wrong. Developer, board, somebody just produce the document that shows Thompson's full of shit, excuse my language. Thompson's full of crap, he's wrong. but it never happened. It's Thompson's and Wholesome, and Thompson's, but never could you come out to say he's wrong. We should have never spent that $500,000 of the owner's money for the developer's liability. And that's the kind of thing where you start to get in these rabbit holes. And I will agree with Dean. This last month, this is easily a part-time job, if it's not a borderline full-time job, because I live here too. That's my wife, that's my son. When I hire security, I'm going to bring in these stumble bums, or I'm going to bring in people that's going to jeopardize the safety of my family, or look at my wife naked in the backyard. I live here too, right? I have a vested interest in making sure that the people that we have in this community that are protecting you are protecting me and my family. So the idea that somehow that someone is getting perilously close to saying I get kickbacks, or that I'm somehow benefiting personally from this, is getting very close to a point where I've got to do something.
You've seen the video, Let me show you guys one more piece.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Address the members' concerns and close this out. So,
That was a good one.
the reason that I called the meeting, and fortunately Director Thompson was willing to second it, and we didn't get any further in my opinion, is because this is being done by design. And where there's a group it appears on social media, and maybe even a larger group than that wants to hold us accountable for management's decisions, and we oversee them, but yet we have no control over management whatsoever. And I realize that I'm speaking as an individual member, he's speaking as an individual member, and whatever the majority of the board decides goes. But I want to give you this example. Management goes out and does a legal analysis. And this legal analysis is dated 8/31/2015, was provided to the Finance Committee, again, wasn't board approved, and management characterizes this line item right here as member accusations, $49,402.45. Well, number one, I'm very concerned about the potential liability. Whatever member made the allegation, if that's even a fair characterization, creates problems when you're doing this kind of stuff without board approval. The characterization isn't the SOA's board's actual position, because the board never approved issuing any breakdown that was characterized like that. Let me just go back a step further. There, in this, because it's already been sent out, if I can go back. This says General Collections, HR, Bandac Property, which is an individual owner, IRS audit, member accusations in Village Green. I don't even know if that's a fair breakdown, and then all the attorneys going across that we work with. Mind you, no one director decides whether an attorney's going to come to the board meetings or any other engagement or spending of the association's money. The management's oversight in the process isn't there, and the board approval requirement appears not to be there because they're doing it anyway, and it creates potential liability for the association. But what it does even worse than that is it creates these fabricated facts. So here's an online posting where it says, legal fees up here across the top, legal fees can be attributed mainly to Director Getz. We went from $28,000 in 2012, and they go on to say, we'll probably hit $160,000 this year. I believe there's a spreadsheet that details these expenses that's available. If someone has it, then they can post it. And as far as security, we're still researching that. That's Robert and Dean's thing. And then down here, this individual member, which I meant to block that out, I apologize, but I too noticed the legal fees and sent out an email to John Bowman requiring I receive the following on 10/21 and subsequently linked to the detailed spreadsheet, which is a detail back to the spreadsheet with member allegations in it. So what I'm telling you is that it appears to me in the analysis that was put out today that I had no ability to combat, and these facts that are being put out today, that there is no connection between the board and management and what's being put out about where we're going with this association.
I think they're looking towards May.
That may very well be, but I just want to make sure that somebody out there hears that we're not full of BS, that we're telling you the truth, that we're trying to get to the bottom of Why do the undeveloped lots pay zero? Or how does the village green operate? Or where does the phone ring when you call Serrano Security? And where does the money go from the parkway? We're just asking the tough questions, and this appears to be the answer.
And I'll go back to what I said during the campaign. If we're wrong, if I'm wrong, if he's wrong, just show us we're wrong. Maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible that we are, but just show us that we are. If our numbers are wrong, if Neil's numbers are wrong, and the finance committee's numbers are wrong, and the accountant, okay, but show us that. Just, the numbers should tie out. When I get an email that says the numbers don't tie out, then how did you get to them in the first place? And why would you send it out to 3,000 members as if it was fact? And as if it came from the board of directors? That's not fair.
And how about sending out a corrected version?
That would have been on the agenda for tonight, but unfortunately we didn't have.
So,
Interesting.
December 10th, you better schedule a long meeting.
Just want to point out, this is not secret. It's all over Facebook, it's all over,
Yeah.
this name here is associated with most of the misinformation that we're seeing. The things like people were fired immediately, they only had 4 days notice. It goes on and on and on and on. But there's the core of the problem.
The part of this is just combating things with the truth. And when you talk about accounting, 1 + 1 = 2, and if it doesn't, you didn't do your work right? You got to show your work. And I did see people, and by all means, don't feel you need to. Don't screen capture Facebook stuff. I finally had to tell Dean, stop, I don't want to read it anymore. I don't care what's on Facebook. I can't live my life in that insane echo chamber. But some of the stuff he was sending was like, you know, the bogus savings and the armed officers, there was never a discussion, ever, about having armed officers in Toronto. That's just not true.
So that just came out of thin air? I spotted that.
That came out of people deliberately manipulating the situation to create chaff, right? To create this. So I got to throw the bullshit flag every once in a while when I hear you're pitting owners against owners. Pitting owners against owners is when you deliberately misrepresent information or you just outright lie about it. If you don't think that we did the right thing from a business judgment standpoint, I respect that. I do. But at the end of the day, the 5 of us agreed that this is what we were going to do. And the more reasonable folks in the community that say, I don't like that you did it, but you did it, so let's move on. Well, we can't get there yet because you've got a few folks in the community that don't like what we did and don't like what we're doing. And I got sent an email about a group that's trying to get themselves together to stem the tide of what's happening here in Serrano. And I, as an owner, that makes me nervous because I think we're moving in the right direction. We're having meetings like this, we're putting financial statements out there, we're telling you where your money is, and we're answering your questions. I came to these board meetings like Pryor did. You get up to do your opening forum and you speak, and they say thank you, you sit down, and that's it. And good luck getting somebody to answer you, right? But I'm part of these email chains now where I see the same 5 people over and over again. You gotta throw Thompson off the traffic and safety committee. You should call an emergency meeting. He's going rogue. We need to recall him. We need to, look, at this point, if you want to recall me, folks, I'm not against the idea. It may not be an entirely bad thing for me, but understand what we're talking about.
You have more evenings at home.
Well, I'm not after my comment tonight.
One more thing I want to say, to connect the dots. Today we had a meeting, all directors were invited.
Kirk had a legitimate, Kirk was out of town, we gotta be fair.
But the whole thing was supposed to be out there in their face where they had an opportunity to address the issue. And when I look around, there's 3 empty chairs.
Well,
Connect the
with
dots.
law enforcement, he got called by emergency. That's a pass.
That's gonna happen.
You know.
That's why it only takes 3 of the 5 of us to have a meeting.
But so what's your long-term goal? How do you ever hold anybody accountable? I mean, if they don't like the agenda, they just don't show up. Because if you put on the next agenda and hold accountable.
And you're getting enough of
At the end of the day-
homeowners
At the end of the day, we don't have to be accountable.
that they'll come and vote, then we can get rid of this.
Well, there's a lot of us here, I think they're trying to be more active, but
Just take the last election as an example. In the last election, 30% of the eligible owners, forget the developer vote, that's a whole separate issue, but 30% of the owners voted. That's the highest number Toronto has
the
ever
highest
achieved.
to date. I've
Highest
lived here
to date.
since '99, that was
That's right.
definitely the highest to date.
And my wife and I, while she was pregnant with that little screamer, we walked and knocked on 3,200 doors in this community because I didn't have the money to send you letters.
But,
So-
right, but I mean, but how do you hold them accountable? I mean,
You unelect your vote.
50%
Replace one
Yeah, we need
in the upcoming election, and then suddenly the balance changes.
this way.
Well, listen, this shouldn't be a session where we knock the other directors. Brian sent us an email, I want a home invasion robbery, he's a sheriff's deputy. Hey, don't do that.
Yeah,
okay.
Don't do that. I'm okay with that. I'd much rather he be doing that. I get it. Kirk was out of town, he had a legitimate reason. Maybe Katie she just didn't.
No, and I get that for legitimate, but then how do you put it on the next agenda? How do you carry that forward and hold them accountable for the votes? How do they send you something 4 hours before a vote and expect a
At
response?
the end of the day, and I wrote this during the campaign, the only equalizer you have is your ballot. That's it. That's the end, right? How do you get rid of the CSD directors? And I'll tell you this, for the folks that throw it out there, and I know this because I investigated it before I was a director, it is virtually impossible in a common interest development that has cumulative voting, which means you can vote more than once for the same person, like Chicago, right? It's virtually impossible to recall an individual director. If you don't take my word for it, go look on the website, you'll see the math. The math is virtually impossible. But I will tell you this, if enough of you got upset, you could recall all of us. You could recall every one of us. We have to hold another election. Listen, this is November. We're going into the holidays. The election's in May. So if you don't like the way things are going, pro or con, if you're part of the movement that wants to keep things the way they were for the past 20 years, May is your time. If you think we need to be moving in another direction, May is your time. But the only way to not have a dog in this fight is don't do anything. Like 60%, 70% of our
These three guys been there for 20 years and perfectly happy.
which is okay, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you think and you believe, there's nothing wrong with that. I think though, and I've said this over and over again, I think we can disagree without being disagreeable. And I'll take it in stride, I'm a big boy, I have my big boy pants on, but some of the stuff that's been said about me, no common sense, ill-defined, just nasty stuff. And if that makes you feel better to call me names, all right. But does that move us forward as a community? If you don't like Getz, or you think he's a wingnut, he's always out in left field with something, I do 30% of the time, I think he's a wingnut. But my point in that is
I get
that,
lucky sometimes.
but you have a choice, he's up for election. Don't re-elect him if you don't like where he's headed, right? But do something. We don't have to be disagreeable with each other. We don't
I'm
have to
more worried about whether or not you want to try a second term.
My wife's asking me the same thing.
But
How many positions are coming up in May? Two? Who's yours and
Mine and Kirk Bond.
please don't leave.
well, and the
It's
other,
not be up to me.
The other question that came up, and I know there's a thing out there in the community, and there's been some questions directed to the board about how do we arrive, who's the president, who's the vice president. So the board does that internally, and they can change it anytime. So we could say, we're going to remove all the directors from their positions. Now we have no president, no vice president, and then we revote to who that's going to be.
Well, let me, why is Bone on the board? Is what my question. He works for Parker, but he works for Parker, he doesn't live.
Listen,
Why is he on the board?
it's very easy to bash the developer, I get it, but it's not always fair. The developer owns lots in this community, they're an owner here just like we are.
20%.
And as a result, they have certain rights that they are entitled to.
And they
One
don't
of
pay
those
dues on
rights,
their lots.
well, that's a separate issue, but they do own property in Sorrento.
We're trying to establish that.
They don't.
We don't know you. Do we know categorically if that's true?
Yes, we can confirm they are not.
But that's an aside, though. The question is why is the developer controls a certain voting block for his property, and vote his ballot, just like you can vote yours.
Well, let's just be clear, I don't think that either one of us, I'm going to chime in here, I don't think either one of us think that the school districts in Melrose, the schools are bad, but there are issues that need to be addressed, and we need to understand them. And that goes for Parker Development Company, or Toronto Associates, whatever. I love Toronto, and I think they've done a wonderful thing, but it's time for everything to be on the table. Where the phone rings and how it works and what we pay for collectively.
It's like the Melrose. We came in here, we knew it was here. What we didn't know was that there wasn't an end. Now, those are it's just, holding the carpet up and looking at the dirt under the carpet.
They sent out the proof that Parker doesn't pay the assessments. They sent out the proof with the annual budget. Master Basic, all villages. Their member assessments for next year, they're planning about 4,039 member assessments. If you recall, 4,551 lots voted for the director's election. So there was over 4,500 lots that voted, times 3. So there was about 500 lots voted, and there's only 4,039 members being assessed. That's right here on their document. Now, I called and asked for Kathy, is that her name, to explain her form to me, and I was transferred to John Bowman. And that's why he took my call. And I asked him specifically about that, and he said that the board is working on that. And I didn't ask him what that meant, because that's
what he says about everything.
I would have had to throw my
In this case, that's true. That's really all I can say about it right now, but
there's the proof.
That is true. It's not unaddressed. It may not ultimately be the resolution you want, but I can tell you that we need more definitive resolution than we've got. I will also tell you that member accusations, because it's just us owners sitting around BSing. As an owner, I sent an email to the board the day they called their meeting that Jim Priden were talking about. They called it in the middle of the day. And I sent an email and I said, I'm outraged. You know, those of us that have jobs that have to pay for our house in Serrano, I can't make a 2 o'clock meeting. You did this on purpose to drive down. And I made a comment in there about, that this is just another example of all the self-dealing, Parker taking care of itself. And it was probably a little incendiary, a little more rhetoric, but I was frustrated because I tried to make these meetings. And I got a letter from the board's attorney, basically saying, you said, you've accused the board of self-dealing, now you better give us some examples. So I did. I gave 4 pages worth. And the board took that and did something with it, but this is before I was on the board, but it was communicated back to me that cost the HOA money to investigate what they asked me to identify as what I thought were deals. So if you say something like member accusations, I think you kind of maybe poison the well a little bit, that by calling it that maybe they're unfounded or they're superfluous or whatever. And maybe they are. But that's the kind of thing ultimately your board, if you're going to hold us responsible for the analysis or for calling something member accusations or for not forcing the developer to pay for their undeveloped lots, then we should have a hand in it. I guess maybe is the takeaway.
At some point, maybe in the public view, there should be a discussion, an agenda item for the open section.
Yeah. In the areas we can.
They've already planned for this. Every phone call that goes into the association staff is recorded so that they can cover their behinds legally. If they treated the homeowners with respect, it wouldn't be necessary for them to record all the phone calls.
Remember that you as owners have certain rights under the law, especially accountants. You can access, you have the legal right to have copies of invoices, copies of checks, anything that doesn't make sense to you. All you have to do is send a request and say, I would like a copy of this contract, I would like a copy of this document. Now, there are some things that, it comes down to contracts, right? You can say, I want to see the invoices for this vendor for the last X number of months. And if it's within a year, they have 10 business days. I got to take ownership. We have 10 business days to get that back to you. Or we violate the law, right? Civilly, we're responsible to you because we didn't comply with your records request. The things that you're confused about, certainly experts that know the business, ask for the documents, ask for the backup. He and I have to go through the same process. There's nothing special, trust me, there's nothing special about it. I want to see copies of these invoices, I want to see copies of these records. The only difference between directors and owners is we have rights to everything. There's nothing that you can't withhold anything from us. Okay? We have the right to inspect them. You as owners have right to checks we write, to payroll. Like I had one owner that I don't understand why I can't know what we pay our staff. Well, you can. You have to ask. Just ask for it. They have to give it to you. If you don't know your rights, we're not always in the best position to educate you about what your rights are.
They can redact private information.
Sure, absolutely.
Protect
But raw numbers, big picture stuff like you're talking about, this is, at the end of the day, this is your money. And where I got most frustrated recently is the folks that'll say, it's only $1 a month a lot. Who cares? And that's how you start opening the door to spending money on stuff you shouldn't be spending it on, right? I had no idea, shame on me, that our employees get 26 days a year of paid time off. I had no idea. I had no idea. Now that I know it, am I crazy? Was I crazy about it? That we had security? And I asked, what's the industry standard? 40 hours? We're 260. And maybe our staff deserve it, maybe that's a decision that, but you should know that, right? You should know that that's where your money's going, that that's what you're paying for. And for the folks that are fire and brimstone, you bring contract people in here, are you crazy? You already had contract people here. 40 hours a week you had contract people here. So come on, that dog don't hunt, you gotta do better than that. And prior to 2008, they were all contract.
Well, and let me just say, the answer we got about that was we use Monument to backfill our employees when they're on leave because they're cheaper than our own employees.
Overtime, right? Cheaper than paying overtime. So you figure, well, then they must be here 1 or 2 days a week, and then you start looking at the detail. You go down the rabbit hole, and you're like, we got 2 guys here full-time for a year? Can we possibly have people off that often? Right? And you start to try to break it out. It doesn't add up. The numbers don't make sense. And the lady over there asked who approved that contract. I thought she meant the Monument contract. It was approved in 2008. It was never renewed. Remember, your board of directors can only enter into agreements for 1 year at a time. So essentially, that's on a month-to-month contract.
At the same time, your general manager's contract has typically been renewed for 3 years out every year. So that's 1 year at the end. It's all known information.
So when is that contract up for renewal? I'd like to see that.
It's not a renewal per se, and we're not required to provide an employment contract, but
So he's just an at-will employee?
sure, like any, well,
Can we
right now
fill
it's a
that?
contract.
right now he has a contract because the board gave him one.
And does it say ad
So
valorem
what's
contract?
that?
No.
That's your question.
Is this for whom?
So is this the one that includes the country club
Yes.
membership?
That's correct.
I think that does, I think that because it hasn't been renewed, it may be on its last year right now.
Well, let's take things in perspective. We have a lot of information, and the goal is not whip people into a frenzy and have you burn down the visitor center, because we don't know. But the contract was was initially a 3-year term, and then what we found that the board was doing, and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, I'm just saying it's what was being done, is they would sign, if the contract was going to expire in 2016, they would extend it to 2017, but it hadn't expired yet. You see what I mean? So by that way, they walk it out 3 years by 1-year extensions before the contract had expired. So whether you agree that that's right or wrong, I'm not making that statement. I'm saying that my interpretation of the purpose of the contracting limitation was to prevent us, he and I, from obligating you to something that a future board couldn't undo. Which is why it's important to bring this back to security. In the security contract, we have a 30-day out. So if at any point we don't like what's going on, they don't have a 30-day out. Their term is a year. Ours is 30 days. 30 days notice and we're done with them. Their cars, their uniforms, they're out. And we can go in any direction we want. And the attorney, our new attorney, because we just recently changed, make sure that they put that in, that we're not obligated. You don't like something, we as a community agree, we want to go a different direction, 30 days notice, they're done.
So another
That's
thing,
it, no more.
so another thing that has been suggested on the internet is, I'll be surprised if that savings, lasts for more than a couple of years, or even the last 2 years, I think is how it's phrased. The board negotiated 3 years where the price is locked in, and we can take it at the end of the first year, sign up for a second year, we have to actually sign up, but those prices are already pre-quoted to us and locked in.
And in the interest of transparency, which I've been taking a beating on, I don't remember the exact number, so I apologize, because I don't have it in my head, but I do know that the 3 years from now, assuming we stayed with Paladin, which we might not, but assuming we did, it was still under $1 million. So if you projected the cost, that our current total cost of employment for security was $1.2 million today, rising at a rate of 12% a year?
Well, we don't know that.
You're right, we don't. But we know that it was 1.2 today, right? And you can carry that forward. We've been doing these 3%, 2.6% COLA for this year with a 4% merit, with a 3% profit sharing.
In the 2% world.
I understand, but you could make some extrapolations. My point is that the 3-year term for Paladin, even assuming we kept them, which I'm not saying we will, is still less than we paid today in its current incarnation. So did all 5 of us run you off the fiscal cliff? I mean, each person can make their own decision, but if you're going to make a decision, please make it with facts. Don't make it on what other people are telling you, and this whole issue of, don't make decisions like that because somebody was naked in their hot tub when a security guard walked around a corner. If that's what happened, absolutely, we got to figure that out. We need to make sure we know it. But let's wait and see if that's what happened. And And that's kind of the frustrating part, is I saw something as recently as a couple days ago where they're saying, yeah, the board was bringing in armed officers. Folks, that's just not true. It's just not true. It was never true.
I'm getting on Facebook, so I get the truth.
Well, I was never on social media before. Jim said as part of the campaign, you can't combat the letters, you've got to talk to people, and I did, and now I know why I was never on it. It's a very toxic environment. It's an echo chamber, and here's all I'm suggesting to you folks. You're smart folks. If you're hearing the same lyrics to different music, you can figure out who's leading the orchestra. Leave it at that. Whether it's Getz, whether it's me, whether it's the developer, whether it's a third party that just doesn't agree, make your own decision. But I'll continue to be available to anybody, call me, email me, and I'm happy to talk one-on-one or in small groups to anybody. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not running from anybody. And I wish more people would avail themselves of that, because there seems to be enough character assassination, there seems to be enough neighbor against neighbor, and I really only see the only person that benefits from that, the people that benefit from that are the folks that don't actually live here. I don't see how that helps us as a community. That's the end of my opinion. Is there anything else, Dino? Any questions for you folks about?
Thank you all for having me.
Thanks, I'm sorry.